Hi there, I'm Elizabeth Hines from the Our Paleo Family blog, and you are watching our paleo cooking show. Today we're talking all about budget paleo, and you are watching on KidCast. Make sure you like the KidCast page, like the Our Paleo Family page, and visit me at the blog too, please. And last time I did a show a couple weeks ago and I introduced you to paleo, what it means, why we eat that way, and I talked about my kids. And here they are. I thought you might like to see them. So kiddos, introduce yourselves.
I'm Luke and I'm 11. I'm Kate and I'm 9.
And you love all of my paleo cooking, right? Every single thing I put on the plate. They are big fat liars. Tell everybody what your favorite thing is that I make this paleo.
Her cookies.
Ah, cookies, yes.
Ribs.
Ribs, my little carnivore. Okay, and we have somebody else in our family too. Who's that?
Daddy.
Daddy, otherwise known as Chris Hines, and he is running the camera tonight. So if I look like I'm looking off to the side, then he's probably making faces at me, and I'm making faces back at him. But he's going to be following along with the comments, since I can multitask, but that pushes me just a little bit too far to try to do this and talk and look at comments at the same time. So he'll be following along. If you have a question, he might answer it. So if you see a response from Chris Hines, that's my husband, helping me out, and he might actually speak out the comments if I'm not seeing them. Honey, you want to stick your head around and wave and show your face? There he is. It's really not that scary when it's normal size. Okay, off to bed, everybody. Bye. Thanks for helping me out. So it's not really just me. I do have a family, so Our Paleo Family. If you're interested in just what is paleo in general, go back and try to watch that first episode, which should still be up on the KidCast page, because I'm just not going to get into all those details tonight. Somebody asked in the last show, isn't paleo expensive? And the short answer is yes, it can be. And the long answer is going to be the whole rest of this show. So I'm going to talk to you about how you can really do it on a budget. The first thing I'm going to do is turn my oven on, because we're going to need that. So tonight I'm going to make several different recipes for you. I'm going to make some fish sticks, which if you have some fish haters in your family, you can really pull this off as chicken. If you want to, call them chicken nuggets. And we're going to make some homemade mayonnaise and then use that mayonnaise to make a tartar sauce. And we're also going to make a kale salad. So not only are we doing budget cooking tonight, but I didn't really plan it this way, just the way it worked out. We're making recipes with foods that a lot of people don't like, or kids in particular don't like, fish and greens. And I think that I've made both of these recipes really tasty, and my kids eat them and enjoy them. So hopefully yours will too. So the first thing I'm doing is draining my salmon. This is my first budget tip for you, is that wild-caught fish is really expensive. My doctor wants me to eat wild-caught salmon 2 to 3 times a week, and the cheapest you can usually find wild-caught salmon is $10 a pound, and that's really high. We can't afford to eat that way 3 times a week. So canned is the way to go. This is wild-caught Alaskan salmon. This is a Whole Foods brand, but usually I used to be able to find this without the bones and the skin. Like you can see that little circle right there. It says bones and skin included. If you really have a fish hater in your family, do not let them see you doing this, because it's kind of gross. You can't see this at all in a little bit. There you go. One good thing about buying this with the skin and the bones is that it is cheaper, and you can just see the skin is like just loose in there. You can just pull the skin right off, and there are 2 types of bones in here. There are these little pin bones, like you've totally cut my head off, honey. Like you've probably seen in anytime you've eaten fish. And then there are these round bones that are like the backbone, these little circular ones. And I pick out the circular ones because they're kind of big, but the little pin ones, they're soft because this is salmon soaked in water, and I'm going to put it in the food processor, and it'll chop right up, and no one will know they're in there, and they'll add calcium. Honey, my head is still totally chopped off.
The video here is different, so.
Oh, does it look okay for everybody else? Okay, so I can't see my head. So if like a big bird or something flies in and lands on my head, y'all say that in the comments. Let me know. I need to take cover or something because it's looking a little strange to me. So I'm just pulling the skin off. And again, I'm going to put it in the food processor. So if there are little bits in there, nobody's going to know. I remember my mom making salmon patties when I was a kid and using canned salmon, and I remember seeing the skin and the bones and just being totally grossed out. And of course I didn't want anything to do with eating that dish. So maybe this would not be the best one to have your kids help with at this stage. But once you've picked all the skin out and those big bones, then they can certainly help. If your kids like to get their hands dirty, this would be a great recipe because we're going to form these into little balls or like a fish stick shape in a couple minutes, and they might think that that's fun. I think I've got one more section of those backbone bones, so I'm just going to kind of fish through it. I don't see any, so there's my fish. Okay, and I have a food processor here with my shredding disc attached. I made this recipe a few times, and I'm going to rinse my hands real quick. And they were kind of dry. You know, that's the one problem with cooking with canned fish, is that it's already cooked. So then you're going to cook it again. It does have a tendency to get kind of dry. So I had to do something to keep it moist. I don't think I have this on properly. And so I put in a squash, a yellow squash. You could use any vegetable you like. Carrots or zucchini would work really well. Mushrooms would work really well. But they're darker, they're going to show up. So if you're trying to hide vegetables from your kids, I would use a light colored vegetable. I like onions. I happen to have a lot of green onions right now, so I'm going to use the green onions, but a white onion obviously would be disguised a little bit better. This is a really big squash that somebody missed in the garden for a couple days, so I'm not going to use all of that because that would be a little too much. It would make my mixture too wet. So I'm going to just cut the end off, and then I get to use my power tools here. So pardon the noise for just a second. Super easy. If you don't have a food processor, they're really not that expensive, and it's such a valuable tool. I use mine all the time. I resisted it for a long time, so I didn't think I would need it, but anytime I need to shred a lot of carrots to make carrot muffins or carrot cake, sometimes I'll use it to make like a meatloaf or meatballs, so I just don't want to get my hands in there and let the food processor do it for me. So I'm just switching out the blade, and I'm being lazy and not taking the squash out and just trying to fit that around. So then I'm going to put all my salmon in there. You could use tuna as well. I like the flavor of salmon a little bit better, and it does have more omega-3s, which we really want because they're so anti-inflammatory, which helps with, mental health, cardiovascular disease, can help with just muscle repair if you're an athlete. So we really need our omega-3s. That's why my doctor wants me to eat this fish 2 and 3 times a week. So I am trying to get the salmon for that reason. So in goes my green onion. I'm going to put all my fish stick ingredients right in there. We really like dill. Again, it's going to show up and it's not going to taste like chicken. So if you're trying to pull these off as chicken nuggets for your kids, then I wouldn't put the dill in. But it does taste really nice with the salmon if you think you can get away with it. So in there I have, that would be like 1 small medium yellow squash, and 1 large can, which is about 15 ounces, just under 15 ounces. By the way, that is almost a pound of salmon for about $2.50, and the cheapest you can buy it fresh is usually $10 a pound, so that's really a bargain. And I have my green onions and my dill, and I'm going to put in an egg. Eggs are a really good, inexpensive source of protein, so we'll stretch our protein dollar just a little bit with that. And I want some garlic powder, about 1/4 teaspoon. Y'all following along? And a little bit of almond flour mixed in. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of almond flour and 2 tablespoons of cassava flour. This is a paleo flour from the cassava root, so it's perfectly acceptable in the paleo diet. It is cheaper than almond flour, so I'm going to mix the two. It does in my opinion, it has kind of a strong taste. I don't care for it. Like people are making cassava flour pancakes and cookies and muffins and that kind of stuff, and I think it has too strong of a flavor for that. That's just my personal taste. So I just use a little bit. It'll be disguised in here with all these other flavors. So we go some salt and some pepper, just whatever you like. And then I'm going to blend it. Some more moist. Hold on just a second. Just a few pulses till it comes together. Now I do want to make sure that all those bones get broken up. But again, they were really small. I want it to not, I don't want to see the squash. I don't want to see the green onion. I don't want to see the dill. I want it to all be kind of blended together. I hate to say this, but kind of like a McDonald's chicken nugget, where it just looks like plain white meat chicken on the inside. So I'll scrape it down and I'll let it for just another few seconds. Almost here. I know this looks really yummy, doesn't it? Trust me, it looks good in the end and it tastes really good. Okay, so then I take it out of here just because I think it's kind of difficult to work with it in the food processor. So get it in my bowl, and I can tell that this is kind of wet. I want to be able to pick it up with my hands and form it into either like a nugget shape or a fish stick shape. So that looks a little bit wet to me. I'm going to add a little bit more almond flour. It kind of varies how much you need because sometimes the fish is just wet, or sometimes it's hard to drain all the liquid out. And my squash was kind of wet. I want to get it all because we're not going to save money if we waste our food, right? While I'm adding a little bit more flour in, I'm going to just give you a couple more of my tips for paleo on a budget. And one of those I just kind of alluded to, which is don't waste food. I don't remember what the statistics are, but you've probably heard them too, how much food Americans waste all the time. We buy and then we don't eat it, especially produce. We just let it go to waste. That's still kind of wet. I'm going to add a little bit more. If I need more, I'll put cassava in the next time. So plan. The way you don't waste is that you plan. I sit down every week, usually on Saturday. I go through the family's calendar and I figure out what sporting activities we have, what meetings in the evening we have, how busy my day is. Because if my day is super busy, then I'm not going to want to cook supper. And I have to be realistic about that. So I think this is, see, it's still wet, but this is kind of tricky. You want to be able to hold it and form it into a shape, but it is still really wet. If it's super dry, it's going to be dry in the end, and I don't want a dry fish stick because nobody's going to want to eat that. So I am going to make a little breading, and that is going to have some more almond flour. I'm going to have the recipe up for this one yet, but I'm going to have it up tomorrow. So in goes a little more almond and a little more cassava. Doesn't really take too much for the breading. Woo, clouds. And then some salt. And I think this adds great flavor is some lemon zest. I think I did this last time. This is my microplane grater. It's one of my favorite tools. So I'm going to get the outer layer of zest off of my lemon. So yeah, I plan out all my meals. I plan out breakfast and I plan out lunch. Our breakfast and lunches, we all eat almost the same thing every day. But dinner, we eat obviously something different most days. So I'm just realistic about planning the number of meals and how many leftovers we have. I don't eat leftovers very well. They make me sick typically. So we make enough leftovers for my husband to have a lunch. Occasionally, if it's something like ribs, the kids' favorite food, my son really loves barbecue, I'll make sure there's enough left over for a whole nother dinner for them. But typically I'm cooking something different each night. And I plan the vegetables, I plan the side dishes, I plan everything. And that way I'm not wasting anything. So I have, wait, cameraman, can I get you to move the food processor to the side? I have my sheet pan here, I have my oven on 425, and I'm going to spray it with a coconut oil spray. These sprays are not the best. It still has some soy. Oh, the camera's going. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah, there we are. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to use this tray right here. So I'm going to take, I sprayed it with my coconut oil spray. I'm going to I'm not measuring because it takes so long to cook anyway. I don't want to take the time to measure something like this because it doesn't really matter. If you have little kids, if you have little hands, and they really want, bite size, and by all means make bite size, but I don't want to make bite size because it's going to take me longer. So I sort of halfway form it at first and then put it in the breading, and then I can finish forming it on my tray. I'm going to make them kind of big, that way I can get through it kind of fast. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you a couple more of my favorite tips. This one might not be popular with a lot of people, and it might not even be possible where you are, but where we live in Raleigh, North Carolina, we have a lot of grocery stores around us. So groceries are expensive here, in my opinion, but at least we have competition between the different stores. And I usually shop at 3 stores a week. I might go to an extra one if there's a really good sale, but I go to Kroger, which has a pretty decent selection of organic produce and some of the specialty products that I use. Like they carry an almond flour that's really nice. They carry the best chocolate chips, which are called Enjoy Life. They're dairy free and soy free, and obviously they're gluten free. So they have a few things like that. So I get some stuff at Kroger. They do have gluten-free products. I buy my kids gluten-free waffles and occasionally gluten-free pizza, something like that. And they carry a really good selection of those things. The same brands that you'll find at a Whole Foods or more of a specialty grocery store. So I go to Kroger, and then I go on to Whole Foods, which thankfully is close by. And I get just about all of my protein at Whole Foods. Canned fish, I wouldn't usually get that there, but I just happened to be there when I needed this, so that's where I picked it up. All of my fresh meat, they just have a really good selection of good quality meat, and you want to really prioritize your dollars when you're trying to save money and still eat healthy. And if I had to choose, I would say prioritize the fat and the protein that you buy. And the reason for that is we need good quality fat in our diet. We get our bodies, our cells are made up of fat, our brains are made up of fat, so we really need a lot of it. We need a lot of good omega-3s. But animals store all of the medicines that they're treated with. They store, just doing a little dance for you there. They store all of those hormones and antibiotics in the fat. So if you're buying a fatty cut of meat like bacon, which totally gets, an A+ on the paleo diet, you want to make sure you're buying bacon from a pig that was not treated with any hormones or antibiotics, and then you want the meat to not be preserved with nitrates and nitrites. So that's what I mean by prioritizing your fat, buying good quality fat. Something like salmon would qualify as well because it's a very fatty fish. Farm-raised fish are fed corn and sorghum and soy, and fish are not supposed to eat corn and soy. Fish are supposed to eat other fish and other things that grow in the sea. So those fish are also treated with hormones and antibiotics, and so a farm-raised fish is not going to have the health profile that you're really going for. I'm going to end up with one kind of teeny one. And then protein, you want your grass-fed beef, because again, just like the fish, cows' bodies were not designed to eat hay. Cows' bodies were designed, there's a thing on there, honey, if you'll just hit done. Cows' bodies were designed to eat grass. That's why you want to buy beef from grass-fed cows, because cows that are fed grain are not healthy, and then that's why they're treated with all the hormones and the antibiotics and whatnot, because they're just naturally not healthy. A cow that is fed grass, allowed to graze on pasture, is going to be a healthy animal, and they're not going to need to be treated with hormones. So okay, just kind of by accident I ended up with this one little bit at the end, so I'll make a little sort of nugget. Okay, so sweetie, can you pan the camera over there and show that while I clean my pan? So that's 1 can of salmon, and that's enough for my whole family, 1 meal, and then 1 lunch the next day. And admittedly, my kids are not big eaters, and so if you have obviously a larger family or kids that eat a lot, you might need to make a double batch. And actually, I would probably make a double batch anyway, just because it's kind of a pain. I don't like getting my hands all dirty like that. So if I've gone to the trouble to make it, I'm going to go ahead and double it, because then you can, after they're baked, freeze them and then pop them out just like fish sticks from Mrs. Paul's. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the oven. I'm up to 425. We've got 10 minutes. And then I'll flip them and do 10 minutes more. So I'm just going to clear this mess away. And the next thing I'm going to make is a sauce to go with our delicious fish sticks. And my favorite sauce would be a tartar sauce. If you want your kids to think these are chicken nuggets, you could make a honey mustard, which would just be mayonnaise, some mustard, and honey. And it's really good. It's better than any honey mustard sauce you can buy. But we're going to make a tartar sauce. And I'm feeling like I left, oh, they're behind me. So we have to start by making homemade mayonnaise. Now mayonnaise, I guess you kind of love it or you hate it. I love it. And you can buy mayonnaise that's made with avocado oil, and it's healthy and it tastes really good. It's about $10 for, I mean, maybe this size jar. This is a pint. Or is that a quart? I think that's a quart. It's a little bit smaller than that jar. Is that a quart?
Right.
It's a pint, says my mathematician. I'm not a mathematician. Okay, so $10 for this amount versus this is going to cost me roughly $1.50. You've probably seen olive oil mayonnaise in the grocery store, but if you read the ingredients, it's still mostly canola oil. We want to avoid those vegetable oils because they're full of omega-6 fats, which cause inflammation. We get way too much omega-6 in our diet. We get it from eggs and chicken, and just about every product that comes in a box or a package is full of omega-6s. We need the omega-3s in our fish to balance that out, so I don't want to make a mayonnaise full of omega-6s. So I'm going to make some olive oil. This really is my favorite. I've experimented with different oils. I buy avocado oil in a big bottle at Costco. It's really inexpensive. This one is from Food Lion. It's extra light in taste olive oil, which is what I like. I think it makes the most neutral tasting mayonnaise. Just make sure you read the ingredients. This ingredient is olive oil. It really is just olive oil. There are some on the market that say light, and they've mixed them with canola oil, which is very sneaky, and you don't want that. Homemade mayonnaise is super easy. If you have an immersion blender, this is a great way to use it, but you don't have to have an immersion blender. You can use a food processor. I have a little mini one that's sort of like a blender, and you can also use a blender. So anyway, this is just what I like because I'm going to store it in this and I can make it right in this jar. And this is going to make a lot of noise, but I'm going to show you how easy it is. There's one trick, and the trick is your ingredients have to be at room temperature. So I got my egg out this afternoon. If you forget, like I almost always do, and you don't get your ingredients out, it's not a big deal. You can just run some hot water, hot tap water in a bowl and put your egg. So it's your egg and your lemon and your Dijon mustard that are going to be refrigerated. And my mustard is cold, but because my egg is warm and my lemon is warm, and my oil is warm, this little tiny bit of mustard that goes in is not going to have an influence. But I did try it one time with having my ingredients cold, and it did not work. I just had a big oily mess at the end, and that was no fun because it was a big waste. So I'm going to start with my whole egg in there and my mustard and about 1/4 cup of oil. I'm not going to measure. I just know that this bottle will make 2 batches of mayonnaise for me, so I'm going to I already used about half of it, so I'm going to use almost all the rest of it. And then at the very end, we're going to put in salt and lemon juice just to taste. And again, my lemon juice is room temperature, and I'm going to use lemon again in my, give me a tissue please. I'm going to use lemon in my kale salad I'm going to make in just a minute. My nose is running. Let's see all those flips I've been doing. Okay, so this is going to be loud. The trick with this immersion blender is you see these little holes right here. You have to make sure there's enough liquid that it covers those holes, or it'll kind of sputter and splatter. So here we go. So you want to blend that up really well, and then the second trick, besides having everything room temperature, is then you drizzle this in really slowly, like you're about to fall asleep slow until it gets really thick, and then you can put it in a little bit faster. It takes a minute. You might be worried it's not going to work, but it's going to work. You can already see. You'll start to hear the blender will sort of sound like it's struggling a little bit because it's getting thicker. You hear the sort of like the engine kind of revving up a little bit. I wish I could sing. I'd sing you a song right now, but you don't want me to sing. So I talked about some, can you hear me? I talked about some of my favorite tips for saving money. And telling your husband how much money you spent shopping while you're running a blender is a really good idea. I'm almost done. It's really thick. I don't know if you can tell, but it is nice and thick. So I'm starting to add it a little bit faster now, just so you don't have to listen to all this noise. I need to go ahead and finish it though, or it won't be right for making the sauce. See, it's having a hard time. So I'm going to go like this and let that oil kind of sink down to the bottom. And then can you see? It really looks like mayonnaise. It looks like that yummy stuff you get at the store. If you use a clear olive oil, it'll just be kind of green in color. Or avocado oil, it'll be kind of green. It'll have a stronger flavor. I like this white one. Okay, we're going to stop there. It's really nice and thick. You can see it's super duper thick. It will stand up in there. I'm lying, it's not going to stand up in there. Now here's something super important. You make sure you unplug it before you stick your finger up in there to kind of clear it out. That's the only thing that's kind of a pain about this blender is getting it all, if you have something thick like this. I use this blender when I'm making one of my spaghetti sauces, a tomato sauce, because I put tons of vegetables in it, and that way I can be really lazy and not have to cut them up really small. And after it simmers all day, then I stick this blender down in the pot and I blend everything up, and then my kids can't say, are there onions in this? Did you put mushrooms in this? They won't have any idea. It'll just be red. It'll look like tomato sauce. So I'm going to get most of that out of there because I don't want to waste it, right? Okay, but I don't want to take too much time doing that. All right, so let's move this out of the way. You can wash that thing in the sink, just don't put the motor down in. I didn't get myself a bowl for the rest of my tartar sauce. Let me grab a bowl. Uh-oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know what that was, but I didn't do it. There's no evidence I didn't do it, right? Okay, so here's another bowl. Hopefully nothing's going to fall out of there on me. So to make my tartar sauce, some mayonnaise, freshly made. You know what I didn't do is I forgot to add the lemon juice. So I'm going to add some in here. I'm going to add a little bit in there. And then I'm going to add some salt. And you just taste it. And if you want to add some more, you can add some more. I think I've got a little too much lemon juice in here, but that's fine. It'll go really well with my tartar sauce. If you like a more traditional remoulade sauce, it's very similar to tartar sauce. Usually it has capers or something like that in instead of pickle relish. But we're just kind of plain and simple, and we have relish. So there's my mayonnaise, and this is zucchini relish because I've had an abundance of zucchini in my garden the last couple of years. It's just like pickle relish, but it's made with zucchinis. Actually, I shouldn't say it's just like, because it's actually a lot better. It's made with onions and various colors of bell peppers, and you make a brine like you were making pickles, and it's really, really good. And the other thing I want to add to this is Old Bay seasoning, which I forgot to get out. And my timer just beeped, so it's about time to flip over my fish sticks. Old Bay is primarily celery salt and paprika, pepper. So if you don't have Old Bay, then you can substitute with those spices. y'all see? I'm gonna taste it. It's good. I want a little bit more. It must have some red pepper in here. That must be the spices, because it's a teeny bit spicy. My kids don't typically eat it, just my husband and I do, so I can make it a little more spicy. Sometimes I'll put in a couple shots of Tabasco, and that is really good. And then I just save my old jars from, I don't know what this was, ghee maybe, and then I'll use it to store my sauces in the fridge. I use that mayonnaise to make homemade salad dressings too. It's so good. You always have a healthy sauce to put on your healthy meat. Okay, let me get out our fish. I'm gonna put it right here. They kind of puff up. I think that's the egg in there that makes them puff. Can y'all see? So, let me find the right size spatula. And they should be nice and brown on the bottom. Can you see how pretty? They're not quite as brown as I would like them. Maybe should have left them in for a couple more minutes. That one's better. That one's not brown at all. What's wrong with my oven today? Okay, so we can just cook them over a couple more times till they're as brown as you want. You know what? I want to spray a little bit more oil on this side, so it'll help them have a nice sort of fried look, which actually I meant to tell you this. The first time I made these, I did fry them. They're really good fried. You just put a little oil in your skillet. I like to use palm shortening because it's real neutral in taste and it's fine to cook at a high temperature. But I don't like to fry. It's really a pain in the neck. You've got to stand there at the stove and it splatters and it makes a big mess. So this way I put it in the oven. They still taste really good and it's a lot easier on me, which I like. I like to make things easier on me. Okay, so there's our tartar sauce. And like I said, if you wanted to make honey mustard, you could just mix the mayonnaise with some mustard and some honey, and that's a really good sauce, and it would go great with the salmon patties. Any questions? Any questions out there, sweetie?
I don't think we have any. Sounds like
No comments? Okay. All right. So I want to remind you who I am. I'm Elizabeth Hines from ourpaleofamily.com, and you're watching on KidCast. So make sure you like KidCast, and please go to my site and check out. I have lots of recipes, ourpaleofamily.com. I'm getting ready to make a kale salad. The kale salad recipe is up there. The mayonnaise recipe is up there. The fish sticks recipe is going to be there. So check back for that. And I actually made this kale salad recipe for my dad, who said he did not like kale, and I said, well, let me make something that I think you'll like. And it's really simple, and I love it. I will make it sometimes, a whole big batch of it for myself and eat it for lunch. So I'm going to start with my kale, and this is the end of what's in my garden, and so some of it is not looking very nice. We had some kind of bugs, and I'm just not real picky. It's really clean, and so we're going to eat it anyway. So I'm going to turn on my stove to about medium, and I'm going to put some bacon fat in here. So this is another one of my tips to saving money, is using everything. So if you're buying good quality bacon, by all means save the fat, because there's a lot of flavor in there, and I almost exclusively cook with my bacon fat. I cleaned most of these, but I saved a few that weren't so I could show you. So you just sort of peel down from the top a little bit and rip that stem right out. Some of the smaller ones, I don't bother to get rid of the rib in there, but the bigger ones, it is kind of tough. That one's giving me some trouble. And then I'm just going to sort of roughly chop these. You can buy a big bag of chopped kale at Aldi. That was my other grocery store. I didn't get that far. And it's, $2 or $3 for a big bag of organic kale. So it's a really economical choice. And kale actually has a lot of protein in it for a green, sorry. So roughly chop these. And it's just like a regular bag salad where they're washed already. It's super easy. But I happen to have this still growing. Usually the lettuces kind of conk out in the garden as soon as it gets hot. And the kale is still going. The bugs are enjoying eating it, but it's okay. I'm still eating it too. All right, so when my bacon fat melts, I'm gonna grab about a couple teaspoons of it and put it in my salad bowl, and I'm gonna use that to mix up my dressing. And then I'm gonna wilt my kale. Kale is one of those greens that stands up really well to heat. It will keep some of its nice texture, and it's actually better for you when it's cooked. So let that finish melting. So I poured about half of it. You don't have to measure. When I wrote up this recipe, I think I said put a teaspoon in here, but it's all getting used up. It's all going into the same recipe, so it doesn't really matter how much you keep in one place or the other. I'm going to bring this over to make it easier on myself. So in goes the kale, and we're just going to wilt it. Oh, that was a bug. It's a piece of salmon off of my board. Okay, so in goes the kale, and it just needs to get tossed around. It will take a few seconds. I'm not going to salt this because I find that the salt gets kind of trapped in these leaves, and then you'll end up taking a bite of one that's really salty, and that's not very pleasant. So I put all of my seasoning in my dressing. I usually wash my hands all the time, and I'm trying to not constantly wash them because that would not be very interesting to watch, and it's driving me crazy having my hands dirty. Okay, so I'm gonna flip my little page over here so I remember what I'm doing. So I've got kale and bacon fat, and I'm gonna put some of my fresh lemon juice in here, about 2 teaspoons. So it's like a regular salad dressing. We've got the fat and the acid and a little bit of honey, just for a touch of sweetness. You can leave that out really because there's not too much acid in there. And I'm going to put in some apple, but I'm going to use green apple tonight. So that you might want it a little bit sweeter, just up to your taste. And then whisk that together. Doesn't look particularly fancy. There's my salad dressing. I'm going to put in a little salt and just a little pepper. We've had this pepper for for almost a year, and you can't adjust the grind, and it grinds really big, and sometimes I get a real spicy piece of pepper. So I'm trying to use that thing up so I'm not wasteful, but I don't like that pepper. Let me give it a taste. It's really good. It tastes really bacony. That's going to be perfect. It's always easier to slice when you're on a flat surface. If I get myself down to something like that, I'm going to stir my kale real quick. Because you don't want it to totally wilt away. If you ever had like a spinach salad with a hot bacon dressing, that was sort of my inspiration for this. It's very similar. That needs just another minute or so. I just want this in nice bite-sized pieces. I like my salads all chopped up, so I don't have to spend all my time cutting my salad. Now my apple, I want in the bottom because that way it's next to the lemon juice, and it will keep it from turning brown. Normally when I'm making a salad, all the pretty stuff like these apple chunks, I would put on the top, but in this particular case, I want the apple down at the bottom. I'll put my almonds up on the top so it looks pretty. Because the truth is, it's 8:40 and we're not going to eat this tonight. We're going to eat this tomorrow, and I don't want my apples to be all brown. I know that this is ready, so I'm going to bring this over and let it sit right here. Can you see the difference? It's still bright green. You can tell it still has some texture to it. It's just a little wilted. I'm going to finish chopping. This was a big apple. Usually I wouldn't use quite this much, but it'll just be better. The more that's in there, it'll be better. And I have a little less kale than I would typically have, but this was all that looked decent out in the garden today, and I didn't have any more. I could add some spinach to this. You could put any hearty green in here and it would be just fine. It would be really delicious with spinach. So I'm going to toss that around. In goes my kale. I want to get it all. And I'm going to tell you all about Aldi while I'm chopping my nuts. If you have an Aldi near you, I think I mentioned this in my last show, Aldi is owned by the same parent company. Oh, I forgot to set my timer. that owns Trader Joe's, you'll find a lot of similar products there. They have a great selection of organic produce. They have wild-caught salmon in the freezer. There's a great deal. It's something like $3.69 for a pound. But it comes from China. I bought it for a while, but then I thought, you know, I just don't know about buying this from China. It's so far away. So I quit buying that. But they have really delicious orange juice, lots of produce. That's most of what we buy there. These nuts are from Aldi, and one thing I love about them is they have nuts that are roasted with salt that don't have oil on them, which is, believe it or not, is really hard to find. This bag is 12 ounces and it's $5.99, which is a really good price. So we stock up on that kind of stuff, lots of snacks for my kids. And the Aldi in Raleigh is right by my church, so we go to Aldi on Sundays after church together. And those are my 3 stores, Kroger, Whole Foods, and Aldi. And that really helps me save a lot of money. I could certainly go and buy everything at Whole Foods, but we would not last very long if I did that. I used to be the coupon shopper, and I would come out of the store with bags of food and shampoo and toothpaste and all the stuff that I got for free. So when we switched to eating paleo and I was spending, I mean, sometimes $500 a week on groceries, it was really shocking, because we weren't just changing our food, we changed all of our health and beauty products too, to take out all the phthalates and the parabens and all those sort of hormone and immune disruptor ingredients, and all of that stuff was so expensive. I do have one more store where I shop. I'm going to show you my finished salad. It looks so wimpy. All my kale just shrunk away. So here's another tip. I'm going to leave it like this, not tossed. If you're ever taking a salad someplace, make your dressing in the bowl, just leave it in the bottom, pile all of your ingredients on top, and toss it when you get there. And that way your greens don't get all soggy. Now, my greens are already soggy because I wanted them that way, but this will also help to keep my nuts nice and crispy until we eat this tomorrow night. My fish is going to come out in a couple more minutes, but I want to tell you about Thrive Market. And Thrive is an online grocery store that's kind of like Amazon and Costco and Whole Foods all rolled into one. It is a membership service. You pay, I think it's $60 a year, but the savings are crazy. The very first time I placed an order, I saved over $60. So it's really been worth that cost. I really highly recommend Thrive. They don't just have food, but they have the toothpaste and shampoo and baby care. They really have everything. So I order all of our soaps, and I mean, the toothpaste that I'm using now that my doctor recommended is like $8 at Whole Foods. Will you hit that thing again, honey? The toothpaste is about $8 at Whole Foods, and I think it's like $3.65 from Thrive, so it's a lot cheaper. It's a really amazing bargain. So check out Thrive Market if you haven't already. Let me clear this so I can get my fish sticks out.
And you can find a link to it on your webpage, right?
Yes, I do have a link to Thrive on the sidebar if you're looking on a desktop computer or like an iPad. And if you're on a phone, then it'll be, if you scroll way down to the very bottom. See how nice and brown that one is? See that? That's what you're looking for. I'm going to flip all these over and maybe let them go. They're going to be cooked. Remember, the salmon is cooked already. The vegetables weren't cooked, but they're going to cook really fast. And there was an egg in there. So it's totally cooked by this point. So you just want to get it as brown as you want so it looks good. I wish y'all could smell it. It smells really yummy. I'm going to have this for lunch for the next few days because I already served these to my family once this week. I could eat them several days, but they would not enjoy eating them every day like I do. So let me turn my oven back on and turn my timer off so it doesn't beep at me. And I have a couple more tips for you, but of course I can't remember. Let's see. Oh, don't pay for convenience unless you have to. I'm wrapping it up, just like one more minute. You know, when you walk into the grocery store, they have all those pretty boxes full of chopped melon and cut up carrots and stuff. You know, sometime you're going to have an emergency. Your husband's going to say, oh, my boss is coming for dinner. I need you to serve 12 people tonight. Then you go buy the convenient stuff. But on every old average Wednesday night with soccer practice, don't buy the convenience foods. Eat them at home. You know, I splurge on 2 things, chocolate and coffee. I buy fair trade and shade grown and organic and all that kind of stuff, because I love my coffee. It tastes really good, and my chocolate, and I want the people that grew it to be paid a living wage. So that's really important to me. But it's still a lot cheaper than going to Starbucks. So I make my coffee at home, and even though it's good quality, it's cheaper than what you would buy out someplace. So those are my main tips. I wanted to show you my sweet potato because I showed you last time we talked about gardening, and it had just this one teeny little leaf, and see how much it's grown. Now I think I had 12 cut like this, and 10 of them rotted, and I have no idea. So don't think I'm some gardening genius and a great big success, because it doesn't always work out that way. So I've got some more sweet potatoes back here, and I'm going to start some more, but this will go, I don't know, a couple more weeks, and these leaves will get nice and big, and then I'll just break this little thing right off and plant that in the ground, and it will miraculously grow sweet potatoes for me, which is really, I do think that gardening is miraculous. You show all my tomatoes I have back here, that you can plant this one little plant or one little seed, and you get this abundance. If you even have a pot, and you can stick a pot on your porch, you can get a lot of produce, and that'll save you a lot of money too. I'm gonna get my fish out and show you one last time how yummy it looks. I'm gonna break one open and let you see the inside, which nothing's gonna jump out or anything. It's nothing amazing, but they are nice and still moist on the inside. Lots of flavor. But you can cover up a lot with sauce. And if your kids will eat fish and you have to put ketchup on it, then put ketchup on it. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Again, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com. Please visit the blog. I have tons of recipes. I have tons of information. Lots of this information about budget is on there in different articles. And be sure to like the KidCast page. They have lots of great content there for you. Thanks so much. Good night.